You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
We came here to battle.
This is good shit.
I would like to begin with a quote. I would like to begin with a quote today. And that quote comes from your dad's favorite rock band, Puddle of Mudd. And it's been a while since I can hold my head up high. And it's been a while, I'm sorry. It's been a while since you heard from me. I was dealing with some personal issues. I was, it's kind of honestly, it's intense to talk about. It was really something I didn't see coming. It was kind of groundbreaking. It made me completely reevaluate what my life was going to be like from this moment forward. And I won't beat around the bush. I had a pregnancy scare. That's why I couldn't do the episode last week. I was worried I was pregnant. I was worried I got pregnant. I was worried I was with child. I was worried I was eating for two. So I was dealing with that. And it's hard to find out you're pregnant as a man because you can't be. So it was emotionally taxing for me. It was distressing. It was something I had to take some time, sit on the couch, have a good, hard, long think, retrace my steps, figure out where this baby came from. So that's why the episode's a little bit late. But the good news is there's an episode this week which both makes up for last week's missing episode and is also the episode for this week. So it's kind of a two birds, one stone situation if you don't understand how time works, which is everybody. The worst part about all of that as an opening story is the fact that Puddle of Mudd doesn't even sing the song It's Been a While. Turns out that's the band Stained, spelled wrong. Just spelled wrong. It was a weird time back then when bands like Hoobastank were doing things. And Hinder. Or he had a song maybe that was on an iPod Shuffle commercial. The one that had like a USB on the end of it still. A lot going on. While I was worried about not being pregnant, R. Kelly was worried about getting maybe his chances of actually getting pregnant up the ass is what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the fact that Robert Kelly, Dr. Robert Kelly, because that seems to be the trend of honorary doctors going to jail for sex crimes. I'm not even going to bother fact-checking that to see if that's true or not. But I'm sure the odds that some community college in the suburbs of Chicago, Loyola Marymount of somewhere Illinois, probably offered Robert an honorary doctorate to give a commencement address to future plumbers of South Side Chicago. The odds of that are pretty high. I mean, look who they let be mayor out there in Chi-Town, Lori Lightfoot, who, as it turns out, is not a supervillain nor a Cherokee business owner. She's, at the very best, a comedic interpretation of the villain, the Penguin from the Batman franchise, only hella gay. Well, actually, she's gayer than the real Penguin. So, make of that what you will, Chicago. I hope you're paying attention out there. But, yeah, Robert Kelly going to jail. R. Kelly, the man behind some of your childhood favorites, really. I Believe I Could Fly is a generational song that touches a lot of different people from a lot of different times. But what it also was a song playing when Robert Kelly touched a lot of different women of a lot of different ages, from a lot of different times. And the man is mentally unstable. I don't know how it's taken this long for this story to wrap up. The guy who, at very least, we knew 10 years ago, peed on a person, peed on, not a jellyfish in sight. Not a jellyfish anywhere to be found at the scene of the crime. From what I've heard, haven't read all of the documents. But from the preliminary reports of an incident that was 15 years ago, R. Kelly pissed on a girl. He also married Aaliyah, I think. at like the age of 13. She was, him not, because he's also old as fuck. If you need a refresher on how old R. Kelly is, go on Apple Music, don't go on Spotify, you fucking socialist, and look at all of R. Kelly's album covers. You can just see that shit looks old. I'm telling you, do it. Look at it right now. Go to it. Look at any R. Kelly album cover, and it looks like the shit you would see Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra posing like for holiday albums. Literally, truly, that's what's going on. And then there's also the, occasional early 2000s thing with T.I. Or the one album where he looks like he, did a Paul Wall remix. But he has hits at the same time. It's difficult, man. In a lot of ways, you could say R. Kelly is kind of like the black Woody Allen. You definitely could say that. You 100% shouldn't, and they're really not the same at all. And I myself actually regret trying to find a comparison there, but now you're probably at least forced to kind of do that on your own too, and then, evaluate what that means about yourself. And R. Kelly, what's wild about this whole thing to me is, like, not only did we all know, like, we all knew a while ago he beat the case the first time, but then there was, like, 5 documentaries, I think, at least. It swept the nation. It was one of the few things on cable television besides football that still actually had people watching live over the last 5 years. The 2-part sensational documentary series in which every intricately planned and horrific detail of singer-songwriter Robert Kelly's sexual exploitation of women of all ages, both over and significantly under the age of 18, sexual slavery, kidnapping, all that we all knew about and watched. And somehow people are like, wow, did you hear? R. Kelly's going to jail. R. Kelly's bad. Yeah, we did. We heard about it a while ago when he pissed on a child, which is something you're not supposed to do. And then we all watched on TV, talked to each other at work about, hey, did you see the R. Kelly documentary? No, sorry, I was actually busy. I was watching the Michael Jackson documentary. I'm still on the edge of my seat. I don't know, is he going to be found innocent or not guilty? I don't, what's going to happen? Innocent or not guilty are the same fucking thing. It's wild. Everything was documented and clearly explained, but then we still needed to take 3 years and make everyone slightly nervous that he still might get off. And he still probably will. He got sentenced to 10 to life, which is the first time I've ever heard that sentence used. If it's only going to hear, like, if you're going to hear the term number, like blank, to life, everyone knows it's 25 to life, unless you're Derek Chauvin and you get 23, which was, of course, a wink and a nod of the old Klan cap, just to let everyone know, hey, there's 2 sides to this issue. But to Bill Cosby specifically, Bill Cosby, the guy who's been accused of just being completely the most condescending dude in comedy of all time. The guy who is famous for, other than Jell-O and rape, telling kids to pull their pants up and basically just kind of talking like a old white dude on a golf course about black people, specifically like young black comics, telling their acts are too dirty, while he's drugging women with drugs that are so powerful they're literally not made anymore, talking about Quaaludes, unless, of course, you need some. I know a guy named Mark who's worried about aluminum in the weather. Anyway, back to the story. The thing that bothered me about Bill Cosby, and I've heard other people mention, is the fact that his crusade against racism looks a little convenient. The fact that Bill Cosby is finally calling attention to the fact that there are institutions systematically denying African Americans their civil rights in strategic ways and marginalizing them from society. The fact that Bill Cosby has began his righteous crusade against that horrific and perverse institutional racism that still haunts our country, the fact that Bill started his fight against that at the young age of fucking 80 something. My God, have you seen his face? That dude is older than most dirt, and now randomly, because he's on the bad end of some PR, at least in his opinion, how he would put it, he suddenly wants to just have a community blanket support him and forgive him for going from America's father to the guy who fucked people against their will. I wish I thought of something funnier there to say for the second part, but I didn't. Because, you know what? Not a funny matter. It's actually tragic. It's tragic what happened to every victim. It's tragic to every person professionally who continued to work with Bill Cosby, who continued to make songs with R. Kelly, which is pretty much everyone in music still. I mean, I don't know about you, but after I see a video recording of a man pissing on a child, particularly one whilst being played in court, I don't want to hop on a track with dude. I think maybe I don't need that. But that's not what your favorite musician of the last decade thought when you look at some of the people that he's continually worked with over his decade-spanning career in an industry that seemed to enable every weird thing he was doing. So maybe you should not get sucked in to other people using narratives which are true in a lot of ways, like institutions systematically denying people their civil rights. Maybe you shouldn't fall for it when someone who clearly has a track record of not believing any of that shit, literally at all of a sudden that person starts banging the drum of mistreatment. And a lot of good-hearted, but now demonstrably, even though the word would rhyme there, stupid, not medically, a lot of the good people are that dumb, but they know there's something so wrong with the world and they want to so desperately be a part of the solution that they will allow themselves to completely mentally absolve a horrific monster of a horrific crime because they heard words they agree with. So words are very powerful. It just goes to prove it. Because you can get your way out of a rape case and the rest of your life in prison if you use the right ones. Whether you like it or not, Bill Cosby is now innocent. Whether you like it or not, Bill Cosby, legally speaking, never assaulted anybody. Because that's what the justice system found. Same justice system that R. Kelly, despite a 2-part TLC series documenting the fact he was kidnapping women and pissing on them, and a whole host of other things. Despite that sensational summer television, he's getting 6 years, probably, for good behavior. Because, and it's not a given R. Kelly's going to have good behavior, because what are the odds that a guy who kidnaps people is going to behave well? I would say low, particularly when he himself is enduring a form of kidnapping in prison. And I bet you he likes prison, actually. You know what? I bet that happens. I bet R. Kelly takes to prison in the same way Bernie Madoff did. Bernie Madoff died, I think, recently. Actually, I'm not positive. You know what? Take all of it back. R. Kelly is going to kill himself by choking himself in his prison cell while guards are not paying attention. Because the girls, or at least some of them that he was trafficking and kidnapping and buying, were from Jeffrey Epstein in his various contacts. And I said all that slowly and deliberately because I wanted that to sound true. Which, if you think about it, probably, if you do some research, I would bet $3 is probably true, actually. Which is, something everyone seems to not care about anymore. The fact we found out there was a global organization of high-powered and influential people in government and entertainment running a human trafficking ring, and all these high-powered and influential people seem to keep going to court for trafficking people. Nothing to see here, folks. It's weird the things people choose to care about or not care about, or how and when to stop caring about them. Like aliens. Do you remember when everyone seemed to give a shit if there was life on other planets? You know, if we were the only living things that had consciousness in this universe. If we were the only form of life. You know, that question. That thing that seemed to be on everyone's mind over the summer. That thing that, like, you know, would pop up in all types of different ways. In the form of monuments and national parks that were straight out of Stanley Kubrick movies, in the form of UFOs flying out of the water, or the Navy saying, no, there's literally, actually, truly, and really UFOs, which everyone cared about for a minute, or at least pretended to. There was even the fact that the alien shit was attached to one of the stimulus bills related to COVID. Somehow COVID brought about alien developments. That either makes no sense or all the sense. But that's gone, right? That's just not a thing anymore. No one gives a shit. It's gone. When was the last time you saw anything about a UFO? There was a time not that long ago when it was like every Thursday, new UFO, reported off the coast of Belize, or there would be like some guy from Israeli NASA who said, yeah, there's totally aliens and we have a Treaty of Versailles pact with them and a secret handshake. Or Iran saying there's tall white aliens controlling the U.S. government. We got to do something. But we're more worried about Iran for other shit that we're telling them to do from 5 years ago. And now we're pissed off they're doing it 5 years from then. But the aliens are just gone from everybody's opinion. Totally just not a thing anymore. And I only bring that up because today I came across a story that there was a mysterious flying object. It was grounded, but a flying craft, a thing. I don't even want to say plane because it clearly wasn't. It looked more triangular shaped, but you've seen pictures. But there was an article I saw about a guy seemingly came across one of these in a field out in California in the Mojave Desert. And what he found, what he posted a picture of, and it's a miracle this man's not dead, was an aircraft belonging to Lockheed Martin, specifically Skunk Works, which, for those of you who didn't watch Silicon Valley or work for Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works is a term that was popularized from Lockheed Martin, which is the government contract. It's not a government business, but it's essentially all of its business is government contracts in terms of weapons, defense technology, DARPA, weather weapons, and things that control certain people of certain blood types, things like that. But Lockheed Martin also would have a division called Skunk Works, in which the concept was a company, a secret company, would exist within a larger company. It's kind of like a mutiny. It's like, think of like Ocean's 11 meets a classic mutiny. Someone would create a company, they would get enough people within a company to work on that goal secretly, covertly within a company. It's kind of like group espionage, group spying, if you will. So that's where the term comes from, and what a random ass dude found, took a picture of and put on Twitter, and somehow didn't end up shooting himself twice in the head, was secret aircraft technology that a secret company inside of a secret company was working on. And that made me sad. It made me very, very sad. And I'll tell you why it made me sad. It made me sad because any story you see online was put there because it was at some point approved, unless you've really hit some weird places of the internet. But for the most part, most things you're coming across, it's not a matter of like were the words controlled or censored during the development of it, because that happens on some level, and that should be there should be keeping an eye on that whole development, sure. But what also happens is the fact that anything put on the internet is based on ranking, a little bit, but it's primarily based on you, completely you, which means since everyone's search experience is so personalized, everything you're seeing or every story you come across has been approved by some AI, some person at Google in a robe sacrificing something It's all been approved for you to see it. So what I'm getting at is, in a long and roundabout way, is the fact that an article about a UFO, quote unquote, actually belonging to Lockheed Martin and actually belonging to the skunk works within Lockheed Martin, that to me clearly puts a nice, clean bow on America's obsession with aliens. Its chapter has since been closed. We are done with the early 2020s alien craze that swept the nation during the second summer of COVID, because Lockheed Martin, like we went over, does some crazy shit. They work on some wild stuff. Stuff that is so wild, some people just die for telling about other people about it. There's people who work at Lockheed Martin who don't tell people they work at Lockheed Martin. What they actually do is work at your job right now. They're undercover, bitch. Look around, take notes, pay attention. Has anyone asked you what your favorite pet or first pet's name was? The fact that that company, and we know about a skunk works and we know what it is, the fact that the skunk works within that company, which is supposed to be so secret, supposed to be the most covert of covert, the most deep cover of deep cover, the fact that that's in the second sentence of this article, buried deep within the pages of the internet, just name dropping skunk works, the thing we're all literally not even supposed to know about. Somehow that is being name dropped. They're telling you aliens are done. Nothing to see here. It's over. This link you clicked on because you saw something vaguely alien related and you really want some more information on that because you're wondering why all of a sudden everyone just stopped giving a fuck. Well, turns out it was the secret company you're not supposed to know about. So really, stop poking around, pussy. Why don't you shut up and eat your Jell-O and take this pill and believe you can fly? That was weird. I don't even know how I feel about that. I don't know if that was genius or repulsive. But like most art, I guess that's the point. Weird what's happening. US broke. No one gives a fuck about that either. We're going to run out of money. Hope you have some, because boy, is it going to become wanted. You know what's weird? There's some people who are going to spend their last bit of money on something like toilet paper in surplus, on like buying toilet paper in surplus. People are going to go broke probably this year, come winter, when a new, variant comes out, when a new variant's dropped by Yeezy Season 7, when everyone's clamoring for money because, government shut down because they can't balance a budget. Even though they technically agreed to balance a budget, there's no deficit ceiling set. So essentially, the same problem is just going to continue to happen and happen until eventually a sandwich is $47 billion, like it is in Bolivia right now. Literally $1 billion for a sandwich in Bolivia. If you got $1 billion in Bolivia, you got $1, I think. And while that is inherently hilarious as a concept, it should deeply disturb you. And I know you're thinking, well, it's a Central or South American country. All of their money is funny money and it's not real at all, right? You would have a point. Banana republics, sure. But when money systems start to collapse, that is contagious to neighboring countries because it's indicative of fuckery afoot. And it's probably gonna spread because that's the thing about fuckery. It's fucking everything it's coming across. And I know everyone's attention span is at an all-time low. Probably because you're overly stimulated like my dog. It's because you can't. Did you know the average American looks at their phone 96 times a day? Did you know I look at my phone more than that? I know how bad that is, and I do it more than the average person. So there's obviously an element of a lack of self-control here. That's the problem. And not all of it's your fault because entire industries are built around trying to erode self-control. But at the same time, and that's a funny phrase that everyone says and takes for granted, but it is a deep thing if you consider it. At the same time, you have to figure out ways to deny yourself things, because that's more often than not what you need in a weird way. You don't usually need. Need as a concept is not something that nearly happens as much as you think it does. What happens is want. A lot of people want things. But what happens when you confuse a want and a need, what that is an impulse. And an impulse usually, generally, is bad. Think about the last time you used it or heard the word used. Impulse, impulsive. It's most of the time not a good thing. Most of the time it's when you're trying to explain away the fact that you murdered somebody. Is that just me? Who knows? I got a funny way with words. But the point is, the best thing for you in a lot of times is to not get or do or attempt to fix or attempt to make feel better, to adjust. Most of the time, the best thing for you to do is nothing, is to just wait it out. Wait till you feel different, because that's exactly what it is. It's a feeling, and feelings are passing. And if you give in to every feeling, if you do not have any level of discipline or self-control, you become a slave to your feelings. And some of your feelings are impulses. And like we just discussed, most of the time impulses are bad. So if we're just playing a numbers game here, if you give in to every impulse, sure, you might creatively make I believe I can fly, or you might piss on a child, or you might tell everyone to pull their pants up and stick around and raise their kids, you racist Uncle Tom fuck Dr. Cosby. Or you're trying to cover up and point away from the fact you are literally the most prolific rapist who's ever been an American citizen. Wildest part of that whole rant was I used Uncle Tom like that. I don't even know if I'm allowed to do that. I think if I'm not, which is most likely the case, I think I at least used it correctly here, that it would justify anyone having an issue with it. So, one love. I'm throwing a fist up right now if you can't see it, which is, hopefully everybody can't see it. If you can't see it, I have bigger problems, and that person was very upset about my use of Uncle Tom. But I read the book, I know about his cabin, and I know hypocrisy ain't for us. It ain't for this side. We don't want anything to do with it, so keep it over there. Deny yourself something that might sound good. The Cosby Show was entertaining. Step it to the name of love, to quote R. Kelly again. Boy, was that a track. The man has hits. It's the remix to Sedition, because that was unlawful. Sure, they have elements that are seductively enticing, like a good tune or a good joke. But deny yourself that, because now you know those guys are pieces of shit who should never see the light of day ever again. But because there are some people who continue to make arguments like we need to separate the art from the artist, because there are some people who claim Bill Cosby's innocent because NBC didn't want a black man to try and buy the network, because there's people who want to give in to such seductive, stupid, asinine, Down syndrome, to quote Norm Macdonald, the great Norm Macdonald, type thinking, you're willing to just explain away literal, true evil, all in the name of you not having a little discipline, because you don't have the ability to deny yourself something that might be good for a second, might be good to taste, but it's all in the waste, or whatever women said in the 80s when they were all taking meth diet pills. The reason Bill Cosby's out of jail today is because there's people willing to not have the self-control to entertain bullshit or stick to what they know is right or wrong. And little concessions of right or wrong might feel like a small or a big deal in the moment at the time. It might not seem that bad to work with R. Kelly if you're an up-and-coming artist in the mid-2000s. If you're not even going to be in studio with him, you're going to record your verse elsewhere. It's alleged. You never saw the tape. It's 2005. We can't circulate video like that yet. I don't know if that girl was 18 or not. I don't know. Maybe she wanted to get pissed on. It's sure, maybe you were someone who thought all of that, and maybe there's a way to maybe see where you were coming from. Or maybe you profited off of working with someone who kidnaps and pees on kids because your record career was important to you. And now some of you are either institutionalized, dead, or were featured in the Trapped in the Closet series, which completely ruined your career. And also is one of the greatest things ever made. Quite frankly, Trapped in the Closet, that 33-part series, that melodrama, revolutionary, and both an homage to the past groundbreaking piece of multimedia entertainment that evolved in various forms of online streaming to network syndication, that glorious magna opus, the one in which there was a gay cop, priest, and a midget stripper under the sink, I can't ever watch that again. Despite how much I love every single chapter equally, 1 through 33. Ooh, maybe I should look into that. The fact that one of the greatest pieces of entertainment of all time is now not available to me anymore, sure is a little sad, but I got to stick to it, and you do too. You got to not watch the next Woody Allen movie, which will feature whoever you really like and want to watch, because that's how it works, that's how they do it. Next time you're at a wedding or you're at a family barbecue and Step in the Name of Love comes on, what you need to do is turn around and step back to the table, because you can't step in the name of love. You can't step side to side, because you're going to jail tonight, you predator, rapist, pig, fuck. And anyone defending any of them, feel free to join them. Or feel free to fuck yourself. Actually do both. R. Kelly's going to kill himself in prison. Calling it. R. Kelly is going to hang himself while the guards are not paying attention. I bet you $3. I bet you $3 or $1 billion Bolivian dollars that's probably a little bit true. There has to be something there. Because what we do know is that there's powerful and influential people in politics and entertainment who were a part of a child trafficking ring. And we do know R. Kelly is a powerful and influential person in entertainment who was accused of child trafficking and abuse. And we do know there's some overlap in their contacts. But don't poke into that too much. Otherwise, you'll end up like Katie Couric, desperately trying to not get killed. What Katie Couric did, what gangster Miss Katie Couric did, was write a book. And in her memoir, which is coming out soon, she described one of the infamous dinners that she was invited to and attended, mind you, motherfucker, at Jeffrey Epstein's place in New York, which is, of course, a portal to a different dimension. And in this upcoming memoir, Katie Couric describes this dinner and quotes like a scene straight out of Eyes Wide Shut. Now, for those of you who haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut is the last Stanley Kubrick movie that he made before he was murdered by the Rosicrucians in Pennsylvania for revealing details and specificities regarding aforementioned secret societies. But in the secret society, in the most famous scene, these rich and powerful and influential people in politics and entertainment, they're all in, robes. They got horns or weird masks and shit on, and they all stand in a circle, and they all chant or do something, and all try to come without touching their short little peni, or pussies, if you will. And then they all have a big old group magic with a K orgy. Now, you know the type. I'm sure that was a weird way for me to describe it, but you get what I'm talking about. So Katie Couric said she goes to this Epstein dinner and describes it as a scene like that. So that right there, that's interesting. Very interesting. Among guests, one of them, Prince Andrew, who just now, I guess, is getting around to having to deal with this, despite dodging it for 2 years pretty successfully. And Katie Couric might be telling the truth. This might be, This is just yellow journalism at its finest. Because also, I have a question for you, Miss Katie. Why the fuck were you there? Why'd you go? Why? This is cool. You got this information, but why were you there? Were you skunk working a magic orgy party at Jeff's house? Is that what you were doing, gangster Miss Katie? Because if that's the case, no, actually, you know what? That's not the case. There's no fucking way that's what you were doing. So you were trying to participate. And what I think it is, if I may hazard a guess, Miss Katie, is that you're trying to not get your wig split. Try and not get your cap pulled back, motherfucker, okay? Because clearly, these people came to play. These people came to split wigs. Because they'll kill you even if you're in jail, under watch, around the clock. So really, your only play, if we are to accept and believe the fact that the authorities and the good guys, with air quotes, are trying to get these people behind this thing, if we are to believe that's happening, the safest play for someone potentially involved would be to go public with it as much as they can. To go public from sunup to sundown. Literally never not talk about it. Literally all evidence you have. Hey, how's the weather? Well, let me tell you what Jeff was serving for dinner when he was spitting on a kid and R. Kelly was pissing on her sister. All in robes. I never took mine off, mind you. Actually, can I have... Where's my coat? Katie, strategic move. Good move. Bigger question, at least from me. Why the fuck were you there? I thought you were Martha Stewart for a couple years, if I'm being honest. Martha's just down. She's just 10 toes down for the culture. What are you, Katie? Your last name sounds like a hotel coffee maker, and apparently you're a Satanist. But good morning, America. Wonder what Matt Lauer's up to.